What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Soft Dump in the Corner podcast, presented to you by North Six Sports. I am your host, co-host, if I will say, Jordo here, alongside Luke Pendlebury. How are you doing today, or tonight, I should say, on this fine, cold, brisk evening in Northern Ontario?
Oh, I can't wait for the summer to come around and get the twigs back out and swing. But things are good. Things are busy. Work's busy. Yeah, hitting the golf sim right after this. So let's get into some hockey.
Giving a little whack, that's good, yeah,
Oh
not
yeah,
too much green grass out there, but,
no,
the grass is greener on the other side for some hockey fans as we approach, some of our first best on best hockey that we've had in quite some time.
yeah,
Of course, we haven't had the Olympics in quite some time, the World Hockey Tournament, you barely get a lot of the best on best. A lot of those guys wanna just go home after the season's ended,
yep.
whether it be post regular season, post playoffs, they just don't wanna fly overseas to go do that. So, we have best on best. We have the Four Nations face off coming up. And I ask you, Luke, is it a joke or is it not a joke? The reason I say that, we've recently had the Alex Pietrangelo news come out that his
hmm
quote unquote ailment has prevented him from joining Team Canada in the upcoming Four Nations tournament. But he has played 24 minutes in the last game, the day of announcing that he had an ailment. So I ask you, what's going on with this? Give me your thoughts of what's going on with the background here.
I honestly think the NHL needed to shake up. I think the All-Star game was getting a little stale with the fans' eyes, and I do like the move that the NHL has moved forward to a best on best. Like you mentioned earlier, we haven't seen in like 8 years, 9 years. So just to be able to have, someone like Crosby and McDavid play together. McDavid's had strong opinions about, returning to wear the leaf on his chest and being able to represent his country alongside his idols, Sidney Crosby, is something I think fans have been looking for a long time. Um, Obviously, you got some of your doubts when it comes to this tournament. I think only allowing four of the countries to participate, even though with how talented the NHL is these days, I think you can make up a few more countries to be in this tournament. You're missing out on some superstars, especially someone like Leon Draisaitl, who represents Germany, won't be able to participate in something on the big global stage. I understand we got the Olympics coming up, but um, it does suck to hear the Pietrangelo news that he's not going to be participating and then goes out and plays almost half a game. But I get it. A lot of these teams are, they're all fighting for a Stanley Cup, and any of these guys that go down in this tournament, they're going to raise a lot of flags and question marks because um, these guys might ruin their chances of their team being successful deep into April, May, and June. So I think a lot of even Leaf fans with Austin Matthews, with the injuries he's had all year, he says he's going to represent the United States, and he seems to be fine as of now. Gets to wear the C, which is kind of cool for Leaf fans. But if anything goes wrong in that tournament, he goes down with an injury, there's going to be chaos in Toronto, especially with how much of a win now situation this team's been in for the last I don't know how many years. So overall, I'm looking forward to the tournament. I'm excited. There's a lot of flack going back and forth. Is Canada the favorite? I don't even know at this point. The U.S. are just so deep in every department. So I'm excited. It's coming up in a couple weeks, so it's just going to be good we can all cheer for the same team in red and white. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I am too. I'm just really excited to see everyone play together like
Yeah.
we, picture and dream of. And, obviously this is not the Olympics, but it's going to be what we're going to get for now. And
Yep.
quite honestly, am I as excited as a hockey fan? Absolutely not. I don't think it means as much to the players as maybe an Olympics does. I don't think
hmm
there's as much pressure on them for these particular games. Having said that, do I think it should be good hockey? Sure. Will it be high intensity hockey full of piss and vinegar and grinding and, face washing in front of the net and you name it? I don't know. I don't
hmm
think so, but I don't know.
Yep.
There's some guys out there that sometimes you just need to cross their wires and they will snap and they will go just do that stuff. And maybe they don't want to, maybe they don't anticipate doing so. And that's what makes this so exciting, right? So that's what I'm looking forward to is like, will we just get maybe a moment that just triggers it, or will everyone buy into it, or are we just simply going to get, a half-assed, very little effort, here's your all-star game that you're not getting this year, fans. This is your all-star game. So I'm a
Yep.
little worried about that, but you know what? We'll see how it goes. We'll obviously be able to give our recap and review of that as we progress throughout and as we watch it. But we do get to see, as we've always wanted, as everyone wants, McDavid and Crosby, they get to play together. It's going to be
Yep.
great. It's going to be great for the pictures, great for the history of the game, great for this, great for that. There's not too many cons to that. It's just
Yeah.
pro. And I think it's great, and I think it's very exciting. Marketing's gonna love it, and I also just think it's great for the kids, man.
Yep.
Honestly, I always will think back to when I was a kid, especially at this time of year, mid-January. We're playing pond hockey, or you skate in your backyard rink, whatever. You're thinking about who am I? I'm Gretzky, or when I was growing up, I'm Sakic or Medano, or whatever your generation was.
Yeah.
That's what you think of. And these kids right now, like, they're growing up. The kids that are just out of the age group of Crosby's and whatever are growing into McDavid, and now they're going into Bedard, and it's great to see, right? So you get these things happening, and I always date back to that one cool picture of Gretzky and Gordy at the All-Star game.
Hmm.
And it's great to see, right? It's
Yep.
just chapter after chapter. It's really cool. But as I said, we'll get into that a little bit, down the road, in terms of recapping the face-off, the Four
Hmm.
Nations
Yeah.
face-off, excuse me. But it's going to be exciting. I'm excited to see it. I hope it is something for the fans and not just a gimmick for the NHL. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Moving into more of NHL news as a whole, we are going to talk about the Rantanen trade. That one blew up the NHL. I mean, to say that one came out of left field is like, that's not even a beginner. I didn't think there was a damn chance that the Avs were going to trade
No.
him. You hear it all the time, excuse me, will they get this guy signed? Can they do this number? What will they do? Will McKinnon get pissed? Or, what if McKinnon's not the top paid player? McKinnon doesn't care about that. He's got his cup, and he knows how hard it is to do it, and he wants another one. And he's sitting there saying, Rantanen is one of the best players in the league. I would even argue. Everyone uses the top 5 thing. Sure, everyone can have their own top 5. There's no doubt you leave him out of the top 10. Okay, so
I
let's just
agree.
call it a top 10 player in the league. It
Yep.
is insane to trade away a player of that caliber, let
Hmm.
alone when you're a playoff contender over
Hmm.
halfway through the season, right? They're at game 50 or a little over 50-ish. Some teams just shy. Crazy timing, big teams, big names. Carolina and Colorado were both playoff contenders, Stanley Cup contenders before the trades went down. So
Yeah.
that just snowballs to that. So now all of a sudden you've got a lot of pressure. You got little devil on your shoulder, and you got angel over your shoulder here. If you're the GM of the Avs, and you're sitting here like, Marty Necas is a tremendous hockey player, and Jack Drury's a tremendous player for my third or fourth line. He's going to be able to both those guys play different roles. They're going to do. They're not Mikko Rantanen.
Okay.
So I've said that. I want to hear from your side of things.
Yeah.
Just a quick recap. Like, what did you think? What did you say? Did you like the trade? Did you not like the trade? Do you have a winner? Do you have a loser? I just, one last thing for me. I don't like the trade for either team. I
Mm.
don't think it increases Rantanen's value, because if anything, he had the chemistry with McKinnon. And I think if anything, he has Makar as well to play there too.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that Carolina may be actually a deeper forward group, I actually believe that the dynamic chemistry between McKinnon and Rantanen is going to be, now, mind you, I know Aho played with Rantanen, and I understand that they're countrymen and chemistry is chemistry. Aho is not McKinnon, and I don't mean to disrespect him by any means. Aho is an incredible player in his own right, two-way player, Selke candidate, can score goals, can cover, can do everything, but he's not McKinnon. Go ahead, and I'll give you your shot there, because I apologize I jumped in, but I just want to know,
No,
like,
you're
what were
good.
you thinking? What did you say? We chatted, we texted right away, and we were both
Yeah.
pretty shocked. So, like, give me your
Yeah,
2
dude.
cents to the podcast.
Yeah, dude. I was at a little get together at a friend's house, and we were playing board. It was a board game night, and I was on my phone, and I thought it was. I had to like click on the profile of Frank Saravelli to make sure it was a
Yeah,
verified
it wasn't
account,
Frank
and I'm like,
Saravelli with a Y.
what the fuck? What is going on? Like this, like you said, came out of nowhere. They were working on a deal, and like next thing you know, like then it just came out of like they traded him to Carolina. It wasn't like talks are ramping up that
Right.
they're gonna be. It was just
Rumor
bang,
has
he's
it.
gone. Chicago's in for a third team, and Hall's actually also going to Carolina too. And I'm like, whoa, fuck, what is going on? So obviously, their first thought when Chicago was the third team, I definitely thought, I'm like, hey, they're retaining some type of salary
Right.
um,
Yep. Yep.
for Carolina, and 50% is that's pretty damn good for Carolina to hold 4.8 or whatever it is, or 5 point
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Because of the Blackhawks,
Yeah.
right? Coming in as a third party team.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Um, like, and I think you nailed it on the head. I totally agree. You've got this chemistry that's been built over the last 10 years with McKinnon and Rantanen. They know where each other are. Yeah, I understand that Aho and Rantanen play together in Finland, but I'm sorry, but Aho is no McKinnon. McKinnon
Mhm.
is like a unicorn in this league of what he can do
Yep.
on the ice. And oh, I don't know. Like I would be so pissed if I was McKinnon. Like when you're in a win now situation, you don't trade a guy that's your 55 goal scorer, 100 points. And there's probably a lot of he said when it came to contract negotiations. Where was that number? I don't know. But even if you got him, I don't know. He said he was willing. I heard. I don't know if it's true, but in a Finnish report, he said he was willing to take a bit of a discount to stay with Colorado.
Right. And
So I
that's
don't
what
know.
pisses me off. And that,
So
and
did they
how,
underball the guy? I have no idea what
and is that not
happened.
the biggest kick in the nuts to that guy? And who
Yeah,
who who does it look worse on? When you get the
yeah.
player just come out and be like, "Yeah, dude, I definitely would have just taken a
Taking
little
that
less. Like,
deal.
why didn't you just offer me
Yeah,
a little? We could have worked it out. It's not like I needed
yeah.
18. I mean, we're, you know what I mean? Oh man. So I mean
You
that,
know what it
yeah,
kind of
like you McKinnon, whew,
you know
it's a
what it
tough
kind of
look.
reminds me of too, and it's not to this extent where this player was that good. Like Rantanen is, like we said, we could probably argue that top 10 player, maybe a top 5 forward, maybe, I don't know, but it kind of reminds me of the Jake Gensel trade to Carolina. Similar, where like contract deal, he played out the year. Gensel left, signed with Tampa Bay.
Hmm.
Is Rantanen going to sign with Carolina? I don't know. Like they have to build that chemistry in the next few months because Carolina, like you said, Stanley Cup contender. But if Rantanen can't get familiarized within that short period of time, like he might not be the same player they're getting from Colorado. And is it going to work in the playoffs? Like they need him to be like that guy instantly to get that team running.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. And I would argue, and I would even ask though, if Carolina wins the cup this year, and let's just say Rantanen doesn't stay. Let's just name
Yeah.
31 teams. Doesn't matter. Let's say he
Yeah.
doesn't stay in Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's worth it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You won the cup.
You
That's
won the
worth
cup.
it.
It's like the Kawhi Leonard.
You look at Tampa, what they did. What's that?
Like Kawhi Leonard comes in,
Kawhi,
wins
baby. Give me that ring, baby,
Yeah.
Kawhi. Um, yeah, you know what? Random side note, I saw a thing today. It was really cool, and it was just like, do you remember that 3 that Ray Allen hit for Miami Heat?
Yep.
And it was just like a what if Ray Allen missed the Miami Heat 3? And it was listed. It was like, LeBron would have been 3-7 in finals. Man, I wish I had the bullets in the chamber for this one. I really do. You
Kawhi
caught me off
Leonard would have won.
circling and stuff. But anyways, one of the last ones was it said Kawhi would have had 3 rings.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Anyways, pardon me. So yeah, that was funny to bring that one up. But
Yeah.
yeah, so he could, and he could even go back to Carolina, Rantanen, or to
Colorado.
Colorado, excuse me, next year, theoretically speaking. But just
But
to very quickly end on that too, is my example exactly to go with that and what Rantanen even said, and just the way you treat a superstar, ring ding ding. Look what the Oilers just did with Leon Draisaitl.
I know.
Don't
Yep.
get me wrong. Do I wish Leon
Same
signed for
situation.
less? Do I wish Leon signed for less just for the mere sake of saying, hey, if we can clear up an extra $750K or even $1 a quarter. That's a
Mhm.
huge difference in a cap demanding world of hockey. But you can't you can't just make up for Leon Draisaitl. And the constant adage of, oh, you got 14 sheets, but I'd rather have fucking 2 players making 7. Where the flippity fuck are you going to find 2 $7 million players, that are going to give you the production that Draisaitl will? Or let's
Yeah.
even use Rantanen. Let's use Rantanen. Who
Yeah.
are you going to find that's going to give you the production that Rantanen's going to do? He's a back-to-back going to be this year, arguably 100-point score.
Yep.
And how are you just going to get these players? Are
Yeah.
you just assuming you're going to sign them in free agency?
Yeah.
Because all I can think of, and it's not apples to apples dollar value, but add an extra $1.5 million, and you got David Clarkson on your team for $5 million, Leaf fans. You want 2 David Clarksons trading away for Rantanen? No, stupid, you don't. It's not how it works. It's not. So it's so difficult to get these guys. So that's what I'm saying is, why don't you just simply pay them, right? The
I know.
Oilers, Jeff Jackson comes in and he's like, listen, I know it's a lot. I really, really do. But if I don't give him this money, it's going to be absolutely detrimental to our team.
Yep.
And us giving him this money is just simply saying, listen, we know how good you are, and we know that you are far better than, us getting other players and making up for it.
Yeah.
But we trust that you're going to be the best player out there, and we just going to get it done. We cannot afford to lose you.
Mhm.
I think that this actually, if you asked me a week ago, I would have said the Avs are in great shape. You know what? Excuse me. They'll get hot at the right time. They can get this, they can get that. I do not think the Avs are a better team after this trade. I really like Marty Necas. I really
I
do.
do.
He's speedy. He can play with McKinnon, but
Mhm.
he's not necessarily a winger. He's more of a centerman,
I know.
which is not necessarily boding well for them because they just traded for Casey Middlestat last year, getting rid of Bowen Byram, who is supposed to play that second line center role. They also have Val Nichushkin, who is hurt. Again, who was, yeah, exactly, who was hurt. And then, you get all these other shit. You got a lot of guys in their top 6 that are kind of injured too. But it's interesting. Anyways, to top that out, to kind of
Yeah.
go into the next one here, it was just, I was shocked to see the way that they treated him. I really would have expected the Draisaitl treatment for them. I do not think McKinnon would come on paper or on camera and simply lie and say, no, like, no one, I don't care about him making more money than me. I want him to say nobody asked me. Like, it's a very
Yeah.
tough look on the GM. That's kind of I'm making this decision on my own. That's a
Yep.
Sonny Weaver draft day shit right there. That is Sonny Weaver. You go while you watch. The Avs are going to trade Necas and fucking someone else. They're
Get
go and
Sid.
pick up like
Crosby.
somebody nasty. Yeah, they'll go pick up Crosby this year. You'll watch Sonny Weaver. He's going to Sonny Weaver that shit. It's going to be fantastic. Anyways, on to the next one here. Overcoming the goal race down to 20 goals is what we've got on. This we've got this. Yeah, like everybody knows. OV time, right? I mean, shit. This is cool. My mood has changed on this drastically over the years. Not that I hated Ovi.
No.
I didn't think he was capable of doing it. More so because of the fact that I just was shocked that he could year after year keep scoring at the rate he did. I
In
was
the same
just like,
spot.
sometime you gotta slow down.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? And then it just kept scoring and scoring and scoring and scoring. And now we are at, what is he at? 874? Something like that. He's
Yeah,
20 away.
he's
So
20 to break it.
20 to break it. So what Gretzky have? 894?
Yeah.
So
8-9, yeah. Yeah.
right, I
Yeah.
think Gretzky was 894, so that would mean that Ovi's 873,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
No, 875. So really cool, regardless of which. This is really neat. I think now, as we've said many times, even when he was closer to the 100 goal mark, to the 50 goal mark, to now to the 20 goal mark, it is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when.
When?
Now, there is a good chance that he scores those 20 goals by season's end 2025. How amazing of a feat is that? How difficult of a feat is that? And is he truly going to go down? What I'll even ask you one more question, the hypothetical. Where would you rank Ovechkin if he scores goal 895 plus, however many finishes with, and goes on and proceeds to win Stanley Cup number 2, where does Alex Ovechkin rank on the all-time players list?
Damn. Well, first off, I don't think it was imaginable that this record was going to be broken. There's a lot of records I think that Gretzky holds that people were like, nah, no one's sniffing this. The point record, I don't think anyone's going to sniff
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
That
that's
one
gonna
is
be tough. Like
that's tough.
what is it, 20? It's like 2-something, 2,400 or something like that. Even the
2,870 or
200
something.
point seasons, like
Oh
what?
yeah, like no one's touching that.
No, no. The closest
Um,
team was what, 160 last year with Cooch?
yeah, and he had like I think he only had like 145, well, only, but
Oh, it
145.
wasn't 160. What am I saying? No, you're right. It was in the
Yeah,
140. So even then,
yeah,
16 more points. Woo,
fucking crazy.
that's even just to get to 160, not even 200.
Yeah, no, it's incredible what this guy's done in his career, and he's such a seems like just like a funny. He's a clown, like in the locker room and everything, and like this guy's to me right now, even if he doesn't get it for some any reason, I still think he's the greatest goal scorer of all time. Today's era, I think it's a lot harder to score than it is back in maybe Gretzky's era. That's just my take. But just to see this guy maneuver, especially after just breaking his leg, coming back like literally 50 days later, and then scores 2 goals like in the next 2 games, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy on?
Yeah,
Like a Russian gas.
yeah.
But it'd be really cool if we could kind of pinpoint the time frame of when he would break it and be able to be in that building, regardless where it is. I think it's going to be incredible. I know their last home game is against the Penguins, so like if it's going to be done against Sid and the Penguins, I think that'd be really cool. Where do you put Ovi of all time if he gets to that 895? I don't know. I think you have to put him if he does win another one. Like I think you could argue top 5.
You
I
have to
really,
argue top 5.
yeah,
Most goals scored of all time, regular
yeah,
season, call it. Gretzky
yeah,
scored over 1,000 goals if you talk regular season and playoff
and
combined, which
playoffs.
I'm going to be very honest with you. And again, I've kicked my ass before doubting that guy. I don't think Ovechkin's going to reach the 1,000 point mark. Now, talk on that because I would like to look up where he
I
is
mean,
physically
you
as
said
we speak.
1,000 points, 1,000 goals.
Oh, sorry, did I say 1,000 points?
I'm like,
A
yeah, I'm like, I'm
thousand
pretty sure
goals.
he surpassed that.
No. Yeah, 1,000 points, Ovi. Clearly, sorry. I meant to say
1,000
Gretzky.
goals.
Gretzky scored 1,000 plus goals in the NHL when you include regular season and playoffs.
What's Ovi with playoffs?
Ovi has 875 regular season goals, and
Yeah,
Ovi has 72. So 875 and 72. He has 947 combined goals. Fuck.
fuck, is that
Okay, does
close?
Ovi? Here we go. Does
Fuck.
Okay, does Ovi get to 1,000 total goals? Okay, so he is now 53 goals away. You give him that 20 where it gets to 875. That's 33 away. He's gonna fucking score 30. Yeah, he might. How many goals does Gretzky have all time? Okay,
Here's my
hypothetical. Where do you set Ovi if he scores over 1,000 career goals, playoffs included? Because I don't think he's scoring 100 and fucking 25 more goals. Do you? Could he?
My hot take is if he actually surpasses Gretz and he wins a cup, something tells me he's gonna go back to Russia
He could. He could.
and
Could
end his
very well.
career there. And it's like, oh,
Could very well.
but we don't know. How
I
many
want
years does
to.
he have left? He signed 3 years, I think, for $9 million.
Ovi did, so he's got 2 after this.
I just don't know when he signed it. That's the thing.
Yeah, we can fact check on that one.
Yeah.
So just to recap it for everyone, curiosity's sake, Gretzky scored 894 goals regular
Yep.
season, as we know, and
Yep.
he scored 122 playoff
Damn.
goals. He scored
Damn.
1,016 goals in the NHL in his career. And that does not include the 46 that he scored in the WHA.
Yikes. That's fuck.
That's ridiculous. Like,
That's
we're
fuck.
talking ridiculous.
That's
But
fuck.
as I said, Ovi had what? He had scored 870, or he has 875 and 72. Like, he's not far. He's, what did
If he
we
plays
say?
out his next 2 years and he's got, let's say he scores 30 goals a year, knock it down a bit from what he's at, like he could be right there.
He
And
is
they're
currently
playoffs.
he
They're
is
playoffs this year.
currently yeah, he is 69 career play career goals behind Gretzky of all time.
Attaboy.
So there we go. Anyways, let's move on here.
Yeah.
As we've started to shift over into into some discussion points here. I wanted to go over one that's really been grinding my gears a little bit lately. It's something that I really think it heavily factors into the game. It certainly does. It can play a factor on both power play and shorthanded side of it. And that's special teams as a whole. So I want to just specifically target down power play. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to just kind of dial in a question to you and kind of open discussion this, or open brainstorm, if you will. But just when teams get knocked on a penalty or a power play, excuse me, when teams, so let's just say, for example, an overlapping penalty occurs and the team has 4-on-4, and let's just say it's a 3 or 4 second overlay, and that team has a 4 second power play. Well, they actually get a power play knocked against them, or against them, if you will. I'm terribly explaining this. It's really
I know,
not
I
well.
get you.
If I had a whiteboard and a dry eraser, I think it'd be a little easier for you guys to see this. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, instead of the NHL simply having a power play, a number or percentage, where you simply say, hey, you had this amount of power play opportunities and you scored this amount of goals, this is your power play percentage. Why wouldn't we look at something like an efficiency rating? Now, I did a little research and I actually found there was a few different ways that you could theoretically calculate it. One of the ones that I found was really neat with an efficiency rating was, the equation is the power play goals scored by a team
Mm-hmm.
divided by the total number of seconds that particular team is on the power play in any given game, divided by 120 seconds. 120 seconds being 2 minutes, 2 minutes for the power play, average power play time.
Yep.
Okay. So you basically take the amount of goals they scored, and then you do the calculation, and you actually get an efficiency rating. That's going to actually tell you, A, are they scoring on the power play, yes or no? But it'll actually tell you how quickly they're scoring on the power plays. The reason why that's even important is because when you look at it from a dynamic point of view, from a coaching perspective, you can actually figure out which guys are actually producing and which guys actually are not producing, and
Mm-hmm.
if they're doing so in a timely manner.
Yeah.
Now, that all goes out the window when you have power plays such as today in the modern day and age, where you have 4, sometimes 5 forwards playing almost 2 full minutes of power play time, i.e.,
Yeah.
look at the Oilers. McDavid and Draisaitl don't come off the damn ice the whole 2 minutes. Ovi, he started the whole let's play 2 minutes of power play time shit. Like, those guys don't come off the ice, right? But I'm just simply saying, how neat would it be to have an efficiency rating? Do you think that's a cool idea? Do you not think it's an interesting idea? Like, what's your take on it? Like, do you think that we could implement something like that we could get a little bit better of an idea? Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing worse than when you see a team go 3 for 5 on the power play, but they actually had 2 power plays that were 6 seconds each.
Yeah.
What's your take?
I like it. I actually think it's really good. I'll be honest, I actually didn't even know that, like, if an overlapping penalty and then the team goes on 3 seconds, 4 seconds on the power play, I didn't know they got docked if they didn't score. Like, could it be, oh, let's say that's the only penalty or power play, they're 0 for 1 for the day.
Mhm.
That doesn't add up for me, and you're not going to get realistic kind of statistics for it. So I actually like it, and I think you really see more accurate numbers throughout the league, especially on
Absolutely.
power plays and how many guys actually score. So now when I look at this and I see the penalties or the power plays, like after a game, it'll be interesting to see like how many were actually full versus ones that were 4 or 5 seconds long. It makes
Right.
sense. That
Yeah.
I would be all for that.
And even too, you could simply implement a time factor. hey, you have 15 seconds or more is deemed a power play. 10
Sure.
seconds or more, whatever you NHL deems
Yeah.
it. I think it needs to be reasonable.
Yep.
I just simply believe you can keep it the same way. I'm totally fine. Looking at the numbers, it all evens out no matter which way you flip it. Like I was doing some thinking and I'm like, okay, well, how could I counteract that? Well, sometimes during the end of the games, a team might be on the power play, but they might be up a goal and the other team gets possession of the puck and pulls their goalie. If
Mm-hmm.
they score, it's still a power play goal, but it was
Yeah.
an empty net goal. But it
Yeah.
goes down as a 1-for-1 or a converted power play. So I'm like,
Does
it all balances realistically. When you think of some of those style of things or something like I don't know, you I'm sure there's many examples you could come up with. Um, but I just think it'd be really neat to be able to look at it and kind of see if there was a true efficiency rating that teams could have. Um, because I'd be interested to see if certain schemes worked better. I'd be interested if certain players worked in different spots better. Like you start opening up a can of worms where you're like, oh shit, there's a lot of data that can come into play. And
yep.
then the back of my mind goes, we got to get rid of the data, the analytics, and we got to do more eye testing and stuff. And then I'm also like, well, yeah, but it is nice to be able to see some of the numbers and trust them too, right? Because hockey, I would argue, is one of those ones that's not as analytical driven to a sense of you can forecast it. You can
Yeah.
forecast football a little bit better. You can use analytics a little bit better in a stop and start, like a baseball.
Baseball.
There's a lot of stops and starts. There's pitching. There's hitting. There's a lot of
Mhm.
stats in baseball. Like stats in baseball are pages and pages and pages. It's like the Bible of stats, right? But it's crazy because hockey is just it never stops. It's an ongoing. There's on ice changes, changing on the fly. Like that doesn't happen in any other sport. You have to have a
Mhm.
whistle, a stoppage to get changes, right? So there's
Does
so much to go into it. And
it,
realistically, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say. So let's look at it this way. If a team's on the penalty kill and it overlaps and it's only 3 seconds, does the team get a penalty kill? Like they battled off a penalty kill if it clears out for 3 seconds or 5 seconds. It's like same as the power
Oh,
play, but the other way
yeah,
around.
no, it's a good question. I think it does. I would argue that it should because
Yeah.
it would have to because the one team would be accredited for a power
Yeah.
play. So you would
Yep.
theoretically you should have yeah, you would. So
Damn.
same thing, same gist. You
Damn.
could use that same example and just use it as a negative, like just take the negative values because you're just using it as goals against, right? And just say I don't know, I'm talking out my ass on that one, saying it
Yeah.
would just simply work. Um, but I'm sure someone knows, and I'm sure
Yep.
someone could figure that out
Yeah.
and tell you if someone's efficiency on that. But again, shorthanded's a little bit more
Yeah.
black and white. I
Yep.
would say it's did they score, did they not score, quite
Yep.
type of thing. But yeah, so as well too. So one thing I did want to talk about, and this is kind of just a relay off of that too, is just video replay and how much it's
Oh.
still happening. We've had probably 4 or 5 conversations on this, so I know a lot of the listeners, if they I know
Woo! Bada, 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 bada,
I
let's all folks.
sound like the Three Stooges. And they know what's happening, like realistically when we're saying this. But I just get sick of it. Like there's got to be a limit at this point
Mm-hmm.
because we have so many points of view because there's so many different camera angles and it kind of is a double-edged sword. It's great, but it's bad.
Yep.
Should there be a limit? Do you have a different suggestion? Like, what do you think? I mean, it's getting out of hand. Like at
Yeah.
one point or another, it's kind of like, okay, the ref's allowed to make a mistake or miss. It's human error. Let's go up. If they can't tell pretty damn quick, if it's like they got to zoom in and look at the guy's shoelace and they got to look at 6 different angles and looking at the parallax reflex angles of the ice and this, and that. Guys,
Call as a
come on,
stand.
right? What's your take?
No, it drives me nuts. I think every year I get more heated about these moments because there's always something that fucking happens every year, and I just take the best example is baseball. Like umpires, like yeah, they're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna be just on the outside of the corner, and things are gonna happen. Yeah, there's gonna be some games where the umps are just absolutely trash. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
Angel Hernandez.
Yeah, he's brutal. But anyway, but it's like when we're looking at a replay that the guy's skate blade is a fucking pubic hair off the line, like, guys, like, shit's gonna happen. Like, we don't be looking at this for 15 minutes. Teams lose momentum. Like, the crowd gets out of it. Like, there's just so many negatives to it. And I do agree. There's got to be some type of timeline. And if you can't figure it out, you call whatever they called it on the ice and you move on. Like, yeah, there's been some times where it's like 15 minutes and you're sitting there like, okay, just make a fucking call. Like, this is crazy.
Well,
Like,
the problem is we as fans get very impatient, right? Whether it
yeah,
be in game or at home. You feel bad for the fans sitting in the game because they're like, "Oh, we're just watching these stupid meme videos on the jumbotron while whatever." And at home, you're like, "Okay, maybe I'm flipping away from the channel. Maybe it's time to go get a snack." People aren't watching; they're not paying attention, so
I
you're
know.
losing interest
I
at
know.
that time. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's 15 seconds, whether it's 2, 3, 5 minutes, you're losing the interest of what your audience and entertainment is supposed to be bringing you. And that is the most difficult part that I have to understand is like, you
Yeah.
just got to get back to the simple values of what the idea of what is happening. We're
Yep.
there to entertain, put the show on, put the game on. Let there be human error because that is
Yep.
the way it's going to be. This is
Mm-hmm.
not tennis where you simply can put a chip in the ball and show that it's hitting on the line as much as we should be able to figure out how to put a half of an ounce chip into a hockey puck. But for some unknown
Well,
reason, Sidney Crosby can tell the difference of how much it weighs, and he doesn't want it in there. That didn't actually happen. I'm using it as an example. Don't freaking yell at me. But I'm just saying that could happen, and I don't understand how, as the NHL being a multi-billion-dollar company, hasn't implemented something like that as well because it's so basic. But then you could ultimately argue too, how has the NFL not implemented that too? Hey, Bills fans, was Josh Allen not over on 4th and 1? I think he was.
no
Anyways,
kidding.
moving on. I do think they gotta clean that up. You gotta implement some type of time. You gotta implement some type of way that you can get these drawn in either faster or just simply remove them on in its whole. Right? I think that there's got to be different ways that you can do it. Anything else you want to jump in on the video replay side of things?
No, not much more for me. Just fucking figure it out, NHL. Change it up. Like, I'm sick of it. Fucking
Love
move
it.
on.
Love it. All right, Canadian team recap is where we're at here. So, just a little quick little bit on where we're at with the 7 Canadian teams. Why don't we let's start at the basement. Unfortunately, I shouldn't even say unfortunately. I would argue this is one of the better seasons for Canadian teams. This far into the season, it feels like most teams are doing pretty well, arguably better than expected. Looking at you, Montreal. Looking at you, Ottawa. But let's start from the bottom here. So if I scroll up, the lowest Canadian team at the moment actually is the Montreal Canadiens. So shoot me in the foot. I'm wrong again. But the Montreal Canadiens, I'll give you between Montreal at 20th and LA and 12th place overall in the league. How many points do you think are separated between the two?
In which, sorry, the East?
In overall standings?
From the top to the bottom or the
From
wild
number
card one?
20 Montreal to number 12 LA. There is 5 points between them. So Montreal is not
Damn.
that far out. And even too, just simply looking at wild card here. So Montreal is only 2 points out of a spot behind Tampa Bay and 3 points behind Boston at the moment.
Dude, the East
So
is
doing really
crazy.
well, doing better than expected. I think Suzuki's looked dynamic this year.
Yep.
Caulfield's taken a step forward as well. I think he's a lot more comfortable with Marty's system. He's kind of figuring his way out a little bit more. Slavkovsky has not taken that step forward, and that's a really big damper to them. I think they need to tamper their expectations a little bit with him, but I mean, that kid's still what, 20 years old? Like, relax a little bit, Canadiens fans. I do think you're gonna have a player there, realistically. And then Laine's been a treat, man. I mean, that guy coming off of a really bad injuries in the past, lit
Yeah.
it up to start his season as a whole, and it's kind of slowed down a bit. Montreal's looked great. as a whole. Great goaltending with that Dobbs kid. Dobie is what I always
Dolbe.
think of. Harry gave me my sock.
Yeah. Talking is
It's-
free.
yeah. What's your take, Montreal as a whole?
Love it. Honestly, like as much as like being in Toronto, Montreal is a big rival, but you got to look at the whole spectrum of what they're accomplished right now. They're in a very good spot. Draft capital's great. A lot of young prospects.
Yeah.
My Calder Trophy picks looking pretty solid with Lane Hudson. He's looking dynamic out there. Guy skates well. QB on the power play. He just makes it look pretty easy out there for them, and being alongside a lot of young guys who are also taking that next step too is really good. Like you mentioned, Line A coming out of injury and making a massive impact for them. And then you said Caulfield and Suzuki are your kind of your leaders, and they're playing well, and everything's must be clicking under Marty's system. And I'm excited to see what they have coming up. But out of all the Canadian teams, other than being like maybe a contender, they're in a very, very good spot to be for the future. And they're not expected to be where they are right now. So they are ahead of the game, but kind of excited to see what they have in store. But happy
Yeah.
for Marty. Marty is one of my favorite players of all time. So I'm happy to see that for him.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Couldn't agree more. Historic franchise too. I do really like Montreal as a whole. Next above them is Calgary. They're 2 points above them. They've been playing okay. Nothing sexy about them as a whole. I just feel like they're going to drop off soon. I don't know if you really have anything on them as a whole to say. They don't do it for me much. Anything on them as a whole? Ottawa up next for me. We'll do
Yeah.
maybe something on that. Ottawa had that
Yeah.
big hot streak there, 7-2-1 over their last 10. Things have
Yeah.
been clicking in the capital, so that's great to see.
Yeah.
About time as a whole, which is really cool. I
Yeah.
do really like the build of their team, but they're just something about them. They remind me of Nashville. It's just their chemistry doesn't fit.
Mhm. Mhm.
Great to see them have a great run here, and let's see if they can go. But what you're saying on Ottawa there? Anything you want to kind of chime in?
Yeah, I feel like it's been a bit of a roller coaster for that franchise the last couple of years. Like a lot of similar players, and you think they're gonna have a great year, and then they're a bottom feeder, and then they get some reliable goaltending in Linus Ullmark, which is great,
Mhm.
and then they start playing well, and then they go back in the dumpster. I don't know if it's just something inside the locker room that's kind of going
Injury
kind of like,
cycle too.
yeah,
They do
injuries
tend to have
too.
injury cycles. They're never healthy at the same
Yeah,
time.
like look at like Jacob Chikrin goes to Washington playing like out of his shoes, so it's like I don't know what's going on, but
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
so they'll figure it out. Like I think Brady's a good leader. I think he brings everything to the table. He's kind of that unicorn player like his brother. So we'll kind of see what the next steps are for them, but they're still very young too. Like even like Josh Norris, great player. Timmy Stutzel, if he can stay on his feet, and then you still got Shabbat. I think he might be 30. He seems like he's been in the league forever now, but like he's still young. But they got some young talent. But yeah, they'll figure it out, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't have too much more to say on what you said and what I capped off on, excuse me, there, but I do really like their defense. That's an elite decor if they all pan out. It's very rare that all three of them
Sanderson
do.
too,
And
yeah.
I do think Shabbat will likely be the one that does go between them. Sanderson to me is the elite of the three of them there. So I do believe that would be the one to go, would be Shabbat. He's actually 28. He just turned. Hey,
Wow.
happy birthday, Thomas Shabbat! Just turned
It's today?
28 today. So he
Huh?
just turned 28. So he is like I said, of the three, in my opinion, probably the one that would go and fetch a decent return. But you'd have to see. Next is actually Toronto. So they're 6 points above them with one game in front. So the Sens have one game in hand on Toronto, but like I said, falls 6 points. Very different team that we saw with Sheldon Keefe under oh wowza.
Craig
What's his
Berube?
name? Sorry?
Craig Berube?
That's the one I'm looking for. Craig Berube. Yeah, that's a bad miss there, folks. Sorry, I was looking at the standings and my mind went elsewhere. But yeah, Craig Berube has this team playing at a much different look than Sheldon Keefe did. for better or worse, do you like winning hockey? Do you like sound hockey? If your answer is yes, you're going to say, I like Craig Berube. If you like pond hockey and you like flashy and dashy and GQ cover boy, Sheldon Keefe style hockey, then maybe you don't like this as much. Clearly, the offensive flair showed, I think, arguably a little bit more under Keefe.
Yeah.
I think they're a better, well-rounded team under Berube. It may not be sexy, but I do think they're a better team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're necessarily as good as they think they are, and I only say that because I do believe that their goaltending is going to come down to earth a little bit. In the
Yeah.
last, they're on a 3-game losing streak. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Like, that's not great. It's not a good time to start going downhill. So I'm a little bit nervous about that, but I do want to get further in, kind of go into more detailed depth, maybe into our next pod, closer to, or maybe at the time of Four Nations. We'll go into more detail on all of Canadian teams, but just a quick recap on where the Leafs are there. Anything you want to add on just Leafs as a whole? They've looked solid, but have kind of taken a bit of slide lately.
Yeah, no, they look good. They look more physical than they have in the past, and that's definitely under Berube's system. For some reason, they've got Tampa's number every fucking game, so I don't understand what the fuck's going on. It pisses me off because I have to hear about it every goddamn time I go in the office at work. But no, they look. I mean, they look solid. They look different. The way they kind of their style, and everyone's, I think, believing in that system. And yeah, I mean, 4-6, 3-6-1, or 4-6-1 in their last 10 or whatever that you said it was. Like, yeah, as long as you're not falling into about March or April and you're going into that, then it's gonna look a little more tough. But the East looks a lot more open this year in terms of kind of who's might make playoffs. So I think if you can win the conference and you get someone that squeaks in, you might be able to. The Leafs don't have to play Boston maybe this
Maybe
year,
they
but
do want. Maybe
Boston
they
might
want
be the
Boston.
second wild card.
Maybe they
But
want Boston this year.
maybe they finally could put it to rest. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, they look good. Like I said, they look different. They look more physical, and that's something that I don't think the Leafs franchise has had that in fucking as long as I've been alive. So
Yeah, I agree. I missed Vancouver.
I was gonna
There's a
say, is
lot of juice.
Vancouver above them?
Yeah, no. Vancouver's
Dumps
actually
fire.
same. They have the exact same points, same games as Ottawa. So they are 56 points in 50 games as well. There's a lot of juice coming out of Vancouver right now. I didn't want to make too much about that on this one as a whole. That's something we can maybe go off of a different time as a whole, but I think that's been strayed in the media for a very long time now. You and I are saying the exact same things as everyone else in the media is saying too.
Yep.
Trade one of them, trade both of them. I'm tired of hearing about it. It looks terrible on the team. It makes Quinn Hughes look bad. It makes
Yep.
Rick Tocchet look bad.
Yep.
GM's got to make some moves. One or both of them has to go.
Jimbo, figure it out.
Yeah. Up next, My Oil, I think looked very strong lately. They've really started to go on a heater there. They're really starting to pick up the pace there. They're up to 67 points now in 50 games. They're actually 6 points back of the President's Choice President's Trophy, not President's Choice race. We're going for some President's Choice food here, boys. Load up on your burgers. But we're tight there, so I'm extremely thrilled with the way they've been playing.
Yep.
I hope they're not peaking too early. I don't think they are, because I do think they're going to be buyers at the deadline. I also believe that in the back of my mind, Evander Kane's going to be healthy for game one of the playoffs, and we're going to be able to use 5 some odd million, almost closer to 6 million of accrued cap space, because he started the season on LTIR. He actually allows, or the Oilers are allowed to accrue cap space for that. They don't actually have to lose cap space from putting him on during the season. They look very strong. McDavid's back from his suspension. I loved seeing McDavid do what he did. I don't think Garland should be doing something like that. I love it from a Canucks point of view. You take away the best player of the game from that. There should have been a penalty on the play. I like what McDavid did. I'm okay with 3 games. I think it's way too much, but it sends a message, but it also, gets the point proven there. And then, of course, Winnipeg's on top. They've looked phenomenal this season from start to looks like finish here. they're like the Leafs. Will they do anything in the playoffs? Nobody knows because nobody trusts them in the playoffs. So we're going to just simply say the same thing we do every year with Toronto and Winnipeg is they have a fantastic regular season. What are they going to do in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Anything you want to add on either recap Edmonton or Winnipeg? I know we're tight for time.
Yeah, I was reading on I think it was just on Twitter, but they were showing like which forward line has the most goals of the year, and it's Winnipeg.
So I
Connor,
was going to
Scheifele,
bring
and
that up
Velarde.
actually. I was just super quick. It was I saw a stat the other night. I can't remember. I think we were playing Montreal. Kyle Connor, excuse me, scored 2 more goals.
Yeah,
Regardless of which, the line of Connor,
most.
Velarde, and
Scheifele.
Scheifele. I think they had something like 17 or 18 points combined in their last 3 games or something like that as a
Whoa.
line. They've been fantastic, and I did watch some of their game against the night before, 2 nights before. I watched so
Yeah.
many damn games, and dude, I've raved a bit. You can go back to probably episode number 1 when I sound terrible, like I'm in a basement garage. Episode 1 in my corner of my bedroom, right where I am right now. Not much has changed. Shout out to anybody want to sponsor the podcast. But realistically, I've been preaching Kyle Connor since day one, man.
Yeah, he's
I love
sick,
the way
dude.
he plays. He plays piss and vinegar. He's not dirty. He's super respectful. Just plays the style that's not sexy, but just puts up 30 plus goals every year.
Mhm.
Like it's great. He reminded me of a young Jeff Skinner. Remember
Yep.
back in the day when Jeff Skinner just would quietly put up 30, 30, 30, 30 in Carolina and then
Yeah.
just not get the credit, right? But yeah, that line's fantastic. I completely agree. They look incredibly dangerous.
Yep.
I would still think whenever you have McDavid and Draisaitl together on a line that they're going
Yeah.
to be the most dangerous. You can no longer say McKinnon and Rantanen together as a dangerous line because would you put how many positions was McKinnon and Nietzsche's fall? 5, 6, 7, 10?
Oh, yeah, probably. Way
Right?
down.
And did
It's down there.
Aho and Rantanen really do it for you?
No. No. I know Point, Kucherov, and Gensel were number 2.
Fantastic. I
Yeah.
watched them the other night
Oh,
again.
gross, dude.
They were
Gensel's figured it out with those 2, which is great.
he
I'm
figures
glad.
it out wherever he goes. He's just
I
so
know.
incredibly smart, man. He's
Yeah.
so smart. I really wish that the Penguins would have signed him because they fucked over the end of Crosby's career, I believe. But yeah, that's a whole other conversation to worry about there.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've got 4 nations rolling in within I think 2 weeks. What's the first game? Valentine's Day or close to?
The
Sometime in
15th, maybe?
sorry?
I think it's the 15th. I think it's Finland, Canada.
Okay. So yeah, so a couple weeks out, that's rolling in. We got a little bit of time to build up for that. See what happens if or who fills the role of Pietrangelo. My guess is probably either Tanev or Doughty. I think you probably said the same thing when we chatted last. I forget, but we'll
I heard
see.
Uyghur maybe too. He might
Uyghur,
be in the mix.
fantastic option as well. And just if there's any other dominoes, will there be more dominoes to fall? I mean, will other
Uh,
players, will they, actually get injured for one, because they
yeah.
absolutely can get injured. 2 weeks, they're probably playing another 4 or 5 more games.
Yeah.
They could absolutely get injured. And if they do, who would step up, right? So we'll see. But we'll do another one here before 4 nations just to get that in and go from there and just kind of see where we're at as we head in toward the end of the season. Look further into our trophy awards, and as we always do, that type of fun stuff. Bring together a few other games and stuff like that just to keep you guys guessing and enjoy and listening and watching from there.
Yeah.
And yeah, is there anything else tonight that you wanted to add in there before you go and whack a couple snowmen on the screen or what?
Yeah, bro. Honestly, my putting was fucking atrocious.
Yeah, well, I'll send you a putting mat. You can keep it in the office.
I was looking at some options where like Pedersen could get moved to, just because I was just interested to see.
Right?
What if this is like this could be out to lunch, but what if they moved Pedersen to the Islanders and moved Barzell, and had Barzell goes home to Vancouver, and Pedersen replaces Barzell in New York?
I got an even better one. What if you traded JT Miller for Bo Horvat? Because if you remember and recall correctly, Vancouver was the ones who screwed up in the first place because they said, do we take JT Miller or do we trade Bo Horvat? And they traded Bo Horvat and took JT Miller. Now, mind you, the last few seasons he's been what, 100
JT Miller's been
100
good.
point guy. He's been solid. Sure, can't argue, but
Yeah.
it's starting to rift. He always does wherever he goes.
Yep.
Tampa and New York, they all liked him until they didn't, and it's the same thing that's happening in Vancouver. So we'll see. I think this year's trade deadline, or even before trade deadline, I mean, there could be some crazy action, man.
Yeah.
The reason I think you're seeing it too is the NHL has a much clearer understanding of where the salary cap's going.
Yeah, they
And
do.
you might start seeing more players get traded like Rantanen or like bigger name players that are due for contracts or maybe 1 or 2 years out might get traded because they forecast differently that they're going to be able to pay or not pay a guy. I wonder. It's interesting, right? So that's all going to come down within the next usually March, first week of March is trade deadline. So 6th, 7th or whatever.
7th, I think.
Usually, so not too far away out from that now. And like I said, we'll have Canadian, we'll have the Four Nations done by then. We'll have trade deadline to come up to, and then obviously playoffs right around the corner. So it's all happening quick as it always does, right? So
yeah, excited.
But anyways, tonight the episode, fun one. Appreciate everyone listening. It was a good one. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. A lot of cool discussion points there. Ovi, of course, the power play stuff. I think those are really cool, things to chat about. So if there's anything that you guys liked or want us to talk about in future stuff, as I said, please feel free to reach out. Many of you have given us these topics that we're talking about right now. So I thank you for that. Like I said, this is another edition of the Soft Dump in the Corner podcast presented to you by North 6 Sports. Until next time, thanks again for listening.